decided to do history? You just say this is what you're hitting everybody.
That's a no. Of course, no is the answer. You don't know. You are stumbling around in the darkness when you start a show. I felt very privileged that someone had given me the opportunity to do something about the Vikings, and I had a hunch that the Vikings were somehow in the zeitgeist. People responded. When I said that I was writing the Vikings, people immediately responded and were very positive about it and excited about it. I hoped and prayed, and when I started to see the rushes, then I felt even more comfortable with that. But you never know. The difference between a hit and a miss is sometimes quite a thin line.
What can you tell us? How long between the first and second seasons, and what can you tease about the
How long in terms of the years or the passage of time between the first and second?
Because you recast the son. So.
Yes, but as I left a lot of cliffhangers at the end of the first season, which have to be resolved in real time. That is to say, almost immediately. So even though we do recast Bjorn, he doesn't appear immediately. But I'm not telling you exactly where he does appear. And the second season is still a lot to do with the family pressures and lives of the main characters, but also about Ragnar's continuing rise to power and how that impacts on all the people around him and the people he loves, and it's just bigger and better. We've learned a lot from the first one. We have some more resources. We have bigger armies. We have more boats. But the central issues, the central core, is still a family saga. Yes, and it's not superstition; it's just pagan belief, it was one of the things that I really was interested in and fascinated about when I started researching the Vikings. And the Vikings' pagan belief, or the Norse pagan belief, was a much, much older set of beliefs than Christianity. Christianity was relatively new at that period, and there was a very prolonged and violent history between paganism and Christianity, and which was only resolved 400 years later when the last Scandinavian country became Christianized, and then they destroyed all evidences of their pagan past. Pulled down the pagan temples, destroyed anything else they could find, and built Christian. But I'm just fascinated. I mean, if you read the sagas, they are incredible. They're weird, but they're absolutely incredible. And so there's a lot of that in the second season. A lot, and a lot of conflict for Athelstan as a result of this.
What is in store for
Well, Athelstan is, still trying to prove in a way that he's become a real Viking, and he feels in some ways that he has. Floki never believes him. Floki's a kind of fundamentalist pagan and doesn't believe him. And then there various things happen to Athelstan which cause him to think again about his beliefs and who he is. So this season is very tortuous for him, very dramatic, very spiritually difficult.
Many things happened to Ragnar's family while he was away.
Yeah.
You don't get to wear makeup when you're on the show.
Well, he has to deal with a lot of things when he gets home, basically, and the death of his daughter, which is very meaningful to him, and he has to come to terms with that, and there's a wonderful scene in which he does come to terms with, or partly comes to terms with it. But of course, when he does return home, he has some huge issues to deal with in terms of his personal life and his relationship with Lagertha, and certain things happen that make that situation even more complicated and even more difficult and even more dramatic. So a lot of this season will be to do with resolving the issues which were left open at the end of the first season. So it's not easy to resolve them, and but it's been wonderful to write about them, and I love that sort of triangular, the relationship with Aslag and Lagertha and Ragnar is very basic to the second season.
The footage at the panel today of season 2 was pretty impressive. If that happens early in the season, how in the world can you top that?
That sets the benchmark for us. I mean, I wrote it like that. I mean, I said, look, guys, we are really going to have to up our game here. I think people will expect us to, anyway, and we know more what we're doing, and but I also said, let's set this battle in a different landscape. Let's do something new, but even I was impressed by that trailer. I mean, the way it was made and the choreography of the action and the violence is extraordinary. We have some great guys who organise those things for us, it was very exciting for me the first time I saw that trailer, because all I see are dailies, a few dailies, and it's not until you start putting things together you go, oh wow, that's fantastic.
Can you talk about the relationship with History Channel and how supportive they've been and how that can
it's an incredibly good relationship with History, and considering that they took a huge gamble. If this had gone wrong, they would have suffered. I mean, they were trying to reposition themselves in the marketplace. They've gone to do drama, so it was a gamble. But considering that it was such a gamble, all they actually said to me was, "We want to care about the characters." Obviously, when I pitched it and we would talk about it, they wanted to know that it had something to do with real history. This is the History Channel, and if you make everything up, we're going to look pretty silly. But if you can reassure us that at least it's based on historical research or reality, it's just the kind of niche we need, and it fits in with obviously History has got a primarily male audience, but we wanted also to bring women into it, and I think through Lagertha, there's no female character, I think, on TV like Lagertha. Yeah, well, she's a mother and a wife, and she kicks ass. Yeah, and she's a fighter. I mean, what's not to like?
So you mentioned earlier that the Vikings were everything down, and there's not a lot of written research, so there was history too.
Well, a lot of what we know about the Vikings was written by Saxon monks. So after the event, so it was actually written by their enemies, if you like, or people who had a vested interest in exaggerating not that they weren't violent, but exaggerating their violence or saying how awful the pagan gods were. We have some records at the time, so some Arab traders who traded with the Vikings wrote down their experiences, and so we've got that. But it's true, the Vikings were non-literate, they didn't write anything down, they're just these runes which were strange, that no one really understands what they were. So.
And yet, I guess half the population is actually as
Well, what we wanted to do was, obviously there's going to be violence because it's the Vikings, and it's part of the modus vivendi, but we didn't want just a succession of battles, that we wanted one to show violence from a point of view of a Viking. So as we wanted to show society from the Viking point of view. So you see lots of stuff behind the shield wall, so you're inside the shield wall with the Vikings. And I wanted it to be imaginative and innovative, the way we showed battles, and no two battles are ever the same. I mean, one of the great things about the Vikings, one of their tactics was that they ran away if they were losing. It's a wonderful tactic, and so we were inventive about we showed it. But I think there are rules and things, because this is a network show, not a cable show as such. So there are rules about sex and violence and what you can show. So we decided to regard that as a challenge rather than as a frustration, because I think, and I'm partly responsible because of the Tudors, but I think that the sex thing, good, thank you, has gone too far, been pushed too far. So it's just soft porn in a lot of cases, and there's